Welcome to episode 226. This is going to get you in the shit.
There's lots of things in business that get you in the shit or potentially could get you in the shit. In today's episode, though, we are going to talk specifically about the big things that we see in terms of lead and client management that get you in the shit. We're seeing quite a few questions come through in the Facebook groups and people reaching out to us with conundrums that they want our support on. And there's definitely a common theme, isn't there, Joe? It keeps on coming back to wanting to kind of appease leads and appease clients, making some massive assumptions as to what could happen, what may happen if you don't appease them. Yeah, so I feel like there's definitely a common theme coming through, and I don't know why so many at this time of year.
Appease is a good word because I feel like that is something that we're seeing many virtual assistants want to do or feel like they have to do to get a lead to say yes or to make sure a client stays around. And it's kind of feels a bit like on the back foot, like you're saying that the lead and the client and what they want and need is more important than what you want and need. So we want to really help you step into that business owner mindset and not feel like you have to always appease your leads and clients, because it's going to get you in the shit and you're going to end up with a business that you just don't even like.
And we see this a lot. Virtual assistants coming into the space with grand plans for this ultimate and freedom and flexibility and supporting their family. Other virtual assistants that are wanting to explore the world and work from their laptops. And it doesn't take much. It only takes like ignoring a few pieces of the advice that we're going to reinforce today in order for you to lose track of why you got into the VA space to begin with.
Which is such a shame.
It is such a shame. It is such a shame. I feel like this episode, Joe, is really about giving everyone the confidence when they do find themselves in this situation, right? The confidence to go, this is my stand on it, and this is a non-negotiable.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. I don't have to apologize for that. Oh, what's the bet? What's the bet that there are virtual assistants listening that when they are in these situations, they do know how important it is to stand their ground in some of these. They're very aware of their non-negotiables. They might still apologize for them.
Oh, no doubt.
I'm sorry, but,
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, let's kick off our list. We've got eight situations, 8 things that are going to get you in the shit if you maybe approach them with the wrong mindset, with a lack of confidence. The first one is ignoring red flags when you're talking to a lead.
And this will often come into play when you feel that desperation to get the work and to get them to say yes. We start to kind of have this filter, don't we, where it's like, oh no, it'll be okay. I want this work. So, that red flag, it's just an orange flag. It'll be fine. I can figure out a way to get past that, or allow that, or let it sneak in, and it's not going to be a big deal. It's not going to get me in the shit.
Yeah, I think desperation does play a big part in this one. You want the work, you want to be fully booked, you want to bring in the money. But often by ignoring those red flags, it's actually you're going to get in the shit. You're going to end up with a wrong fit client that potentially costs you money down the track.
I have a specific example of this happening exactly like last week in my business.
Oh.
So we had someone who inquired, and I recognized the name, and our salesperson that we currently have now wouldn't have recognized the name because it was a client that we had like a start-stop kind of situation happen 2 times. So we were doing some work with them, and then it just all got hard and all the red flags were there. They left, they came back, we did work again for them, same thing, didn't work out. It's just a not good client at all. So we actually blacklisted them. But our new sales manager didn't know, and she didn't read the notes that we had in our CRM system. So she was having this conversation. Oh, these red flags were coming up. But in my VA business, we're like, right, we need to get as much work in as possible because we have too much capacity. Like, let's
Mm,
go hard on getting more sales, getting more clients. And so she's got that mindset, like,
mm,
let's just make it happen, let's figure it out. But this client, we said to her, even though we really need the work, we don't want to be desperate for the work because what's
mm.
going to happen is it's actually going to cost us more than what that client is actually going to pay us because it's going to take a whole lot of time and energy and potentially risk them not paying or, questioning the invoice. And like this is one of the red flags that she kind of ignored
Yeah.
because we're like potentially in that desperation mode. So the client had said, "Oh, what, you're only going to give me 15 minutes in a discovery call? Like, what do you mean that's a 15-minute call? Like, wouldn't you want to like really this doesn't feel like you're prioritizing like me as a potential client."
Oh.
And we were like, that is a red flag. Like 15-minute call to see if we take it further and have another discussion. What would be the problem with that? But he was very entitled in that conversation
Mm.
when they were trying to
Right.
organize that session.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to that, and that wouldn't necessarily be a red flag to me. I think it would be an orange flag to me. It would be one of those, "Oh, I'm gonna keep an eye on that." Like, I'm not too sure about that. I'd probably give him another chance to see if he showed any other types of flags. And that's why I don't think in this episode we should go into, because there'll be, especially aspiring virtual assistants, who go, "Well, what are your
mm,
red flags?" This is a
oh
prime
yeah, yeah,
example. One VA's red flag could be another VA's orange flag or another VA's green flag, depending
mm,
on their own very unique business and personality style, right?
yeah. And we don't want you to be like, oh, that's a red flag, so immediately it's a no. You can actually take the discovery call and then start to see if there are other red flags that person is
Yes.
signaling to you to then make a
Yeah.
complete decision. So
Yes.
yeah, we are definitely not suggesting that that is a one red flag, and then you should say no at that point. But it's like, okay, now my senses are on,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
I'm gonna just make sure that there aren't other red flags coming into this. Help me make my decision.
Yeah.
So because
Yeah.
we knew this client already from past and we blacklisted them, yeah, we
Exactly.
know that that is a red flag because
Yeah.
that's a repeat of
Yes,
bad behavior.
totally. Yes, that definitely moves it from orange to red
Mm,
if he's done it before
mm,
and left, right? And also, I'm not the one that had the conversation with him. Like, you
mm.
need to be having that conversation where, you need to be looking at somebody through a Zoom room lens.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's the whole thing, right? Which is why these kind of the red flag, green flag questions that we also see, being shared and situations being shared in the Facebook groups. They're not
Mhm.
always black and white. They are
No,
not always black and white. But
no.
but I guess the overall advice here is, if you are feeling like something is a red flag to you and your gut is going, "I just don't know about this person,"
Mm,
don't ignore it. Like,
mm.
it's telling you that for a reason.
Yeah, and don't let that desperation for work just, like, have you ignore completely
Mm,
multiple red flags.
yeah.
Yeah, and that gut instinct.
Gut instinct. I mean, don't they
Mhm.
say it, especially with women, it's one of our biggest superpowers. Like, if you can tap in to that, your instincts, like, use them.
Yep. Okay. Number 2. We really have to say this one again, Sam?
Yeah, might get a bit ranty. Just a heads up, everyone. How many times would we have spoken about this?
A lot. I feel
Oh,
like a broken record about this. It's
yeah.
like a golden rule, never to be broken. Anyway, we'll let you know in on what it actually is. Starting work before the client has signed the contract.
I was thinking about this so hard this morning because to me, this is so black and white. Like there is no gray here. So
Mm.
I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of maybe a new virtual assistant. But the thing is, it's not just new virtual assistants that do this, it's experienced ones as well. So
Mm.
I'm trying to put myself in the position or the shoes of a virtual assistant who has started work without that contract being signed. They've sent the contract to the lead, and for whatever reason, despite even chasing maybe, that lead just isn't sending it back. And I'm just like, why? Like, why? Why are you doing that? Like, what are you picking up the phone and having a conversation saying, being really clear, I can't or I'm not starting work until you've signed the contract?
And get them to do it on the phone with you. Like there are a lot of ways to get
Mm,
a client to sign a contract.
yeah. I just I'm a client that won't sign a contract immediately. And it's not because I had there's no like what's the word? There's no kind of like deep dark reason that I want to screw you over and I'm not going to sign it. And it's not because I don't really want to work with you. And it's not because I don't have work for you to get on to like immediately. It is just getting me to sit down at my computer and open the email and sign it and send it back. Like it's as simple as that. And I know
Yeah.
I'm not the only lead or client that's like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
All I
And
need
is it a block around, like, doing? Because this is so hilarious because, like, I've been trying to get you to sign something for, like, 2 months and you finally did it. But when I was like, "Sam, go and do it now," you were just like, "No, do not tell me to go. I'm not gonna go and do it."
I mean, I did. I like winding you
You
up.
did.
That last conversation, I was totally winding you up because I knew I was gonna do it. Yes, I don't know why it is. For me, I need to be chased up. A
Mm.
phone call will definitely if an email hasn't done it, a phone
Yeah.
call will I would like, "Oh my god, I'm dropping everything now."
Yeah.
I I have to do it. But I tell you what else gets me to do it, is telling me that that contract is going to expire in
Mm.
7 days,
Yes.
and we have to start the whole process again.
Yeah.
No,
And it might not be the same price
and it may
and
not be
yeah.
the same price, and the availability might not be the same. You might not have the same hours to give me. Oh my god. Well, this is gonna take twice as long? I'll sign it, resend it. I'll sign it right now.
Yeah. There are definitely ways to get a client to make it a priority. So I feel like there should be no worry or concern from you that if you don't start doing the work without the contract signed, that like the client is going to get pissed off and like not want to continue. Like that's not going to happen. The client will sign the contract if you say, I can't start
Yeah.
work until you sign.
Yeah.
There's
And
no risk of them leaving.
and if they're like, "I don't want to sign your contract, and that's why I haven't signed it." So the opposite to me, right? That's my
Yeah.
reason for not signing it. But there are going to be leads that might be pushing back on your contract.
Hmm.
There was somebody over the summer break that reached out to us and shared that they'd sent their contract out to a lead. They were quite excited to work with this person. This person looked at it and was like, "Oh, this is very serious." And I was like, "Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, you're a business owner. This is a business. It's serious."
Absolutely. You are providing services under an agreement, and there are risks to both sides. So,
Yeah.
absolutely, you're signing a contract. You wouldn't be an employee and start work without a contract being signed.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. The moral of the story here, people, do not start work without the contract being signed. If
Mhm.
there is a lead that is taking their sweet time to send it through, pick up the phone and make it clear that you aren't starting work. And then as we talked about before, there are other kind of processes that you can put in place in terms of that contract, the proposal that you're sending out, where it has a time frame.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Next on our list. Number 3. When you forget about your boundaries when you've started the work with the client. This is appeasing clients often,
Mhm.
whether that's working outside of the hours that you said that you would be available, potentially taking on tasks that weren't part of the plan, weren't part of the proposal, weren't part of the project, whatever it is that you're offering.
And maybe not even in your wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah.
That can definitely get you in the shit.
Yes.
I feel
Bound
like this is the way that you get a business that you don't like,
Mm,
is that all of your boundaries just start to drop away
yeah.
and you're saying yes to everything.
Yeah. This is the virtual assistant that reaches out to us and is tired. They're often so tired and they're exhausted and they are feeling disillusioned with the VA space. And they will literally say to us, "This is not what I thought it would be. It's not what I wanted. How did this happen?" Right. Well,
Yeah.
a lack of boundaries happened
Mhm.
or a lack of confidence in maintaining or holding those boundaries with clients. That's what happened.
Mm. Yeah. Inability to say no. When you keep appeasing your clients, you then have a business that they want, not a business that you want.
Yeah. Yes. You're putting their needs before your own. I think the worry here or the assumption that is stopping you from saying no, stopping you from communicating, reminding them of those boundaries or why you're not going to do something or whatever it is that that boundary is. I think the assumption is, oh, well, then they're not going to be happy with me. They're not going to like it when I say no. They might start looking for a virtual assistant that will say yes.
The likelihood of that happening is very low because, like, they just invested a whole bunch of time and energy and effort
Yeah.
getting you up to speed and working with them. Like, of course, they're going to ask for things that they want. Like, why wouldn't they? But they're
Yeah.
not expecting you to say yes to everything. They're hoping
Mm.
you might because
Yeah.
that helps them, but they don't expect you to.
That you may find that they actually respect you more
Absolutely.
by standing your ground and having honest conversations. Might inspire them to do it themselves in their own business.
Yep. Okay. Number 4 is shying away from actually communicating with your clients, leaving them in the abyss, wondering and hoping and unsure.
Yeah, this is the virtual assistant that either is very new to the VA space, very new to being a business owner, a freelancer, and isn't just generally isn't aware of the importance of client management. Then we have the more established VAs that have been here, done it, got the certificate and all that, but they may be really, really busy with other clients, or maybe they're avoiding it for a reason. Maybe they know that they've dropped the ball somewhere. They've got this vibe that client isn't entirely happy. Maybe the client has emailed them or reached out in another form of communication and like in a chasing, like, oh, so have you done this yet? Like, where are you on this? Like that's a flag to me that you've dropped the ball in terms of communication if you've got a client that's asking you for a progress report.
Yep. Clients are gonna or the relationship is gonna go so much better if you over communicate. You communicate more than you think you need to. This is not just messaging back and forwards, but this is like actually having conversations with
Mhm.
your client. They will feel so valued and so much happier if the communication is really good from you and it's really regular.
yeah, proactive communication, right? Not
Mhm,
reactive. You don't want
mhm.
them being the ones that are reaching out to you for the first time in a conversation.
Yep.
That's once again, we're going back to kind of more of an employee type of role then, right? You're sitting at your desk outside of your manager's office, just waiting for the next task.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like that, is it? It's like now that you are a virtual assistant business owner, you're stepping into that advisory role for them. Like they're expecting you to come up with the
Mm.
ideas and what needs to be happening and to be the proactive virtual assistant for them, the service provider, the
Yeah.
one with the knowledge.
Yeah. You are guaranteed to have a high turnover of clients if you can't get your communication down pat, proactive communication.
Mm.
Because it's definitely one of the reasons, a big reason why a client will leave and look elsewhere if you're not communicating, if they're not feeling seen, if they're not feeling heard, if they're not feeling important.
Yep.
Which leads on really well to the next one on our list, which is not picking up the phone to deal with client issues. When the shit hits the fan, or you're getting this vibe that the shit might hit the fan, you've got to pick up the phone. Enough of the emails. Once again, I feel like we're a broken record with this topic alone, right? You can't
Mhm.
rely on messages, you can't rely on emails. You've got to pick up the phone.
Yeah. There is a lost kind of tone that you can't convey in messages that you can absolutely convey and hear and feel when you are on the phone. And it just like humanizes the conversation. If the
Mm,
client is frustrated and like not happy, messaging is very easy to show that frustration and to, say things that they wouldn't actually say on the phone. And it just kind of like lowers
mm,
the the level of frustration when you're having that person to person conversation, and you can really dig into like why they're frustrated and work out a solution in a
mm,
more like collaborative way rather than like
mm,
here's my opinions and thoughts that I'm going to put on paper and then they return their
mm.
opinions and thoughts, like that's just not a way to deal with issues. If there's an issue or a potential issue, you have to pick up the phone.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be a big major client issue we're talking. Like
No.
if we bring a lead back into this as an example, a lead that isn't signing the contract, a lead that hasn't paid that first service plan and paid in advance for that month. Pick up the phone. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Okay, next is just not charging your clients for everything that you do. Feeling that guilt of having that timer on or assuming that something you're doing isn't something the client would value and pay for.
Yeah, I think I think a situation was shared, I think this morning in one of the groups actually around this. Their client who they worked for a while, worked with for a while, had gotten into the habit of just picking up the phone and ringing them just to chat, I guess, and maybe to brainstorm.
Mm,
And this is now becoming an issue. It's a regular occurrence, and the VA is going, well, how do I deal with this? I mean, this is client management, right? This
'cause
is about
they weren't
communicating.
charging
That's
previously.
why. Wow, yeah. I mean,
Oh.
any
Mm,
type of like this type of catch up with a client, especially if the client is the one saying, picking up the phone to
mhm.
pick your brain, this is chargeable. This is billable client time.
Yeah. I think there's a mindset thing around the value of that. The client values having that call because they have someone that they can bounce ideas off. Like an employee, if we think about like in a workplace, an employee going having a talk to a
Mhm.
manager and like bouncing ideas off is time that organization is paying you both for.
Yes.
So why would a conversation with a client, and even if you are just bouncing ideas or even having a catch up, why is that not seen as you doing work? Because It
Mhm.
is. You're providing a valuable part of the service. Who else is that business owner able to talk to like that? Is
Yeah.
it actually helping them? Yes, it's getting stuff out of their head. It's figuring out whether this is a good idea or not. It's
Yeah.
asking you questions about, like, what do you think about this? It is all super valuable. That is all charge time. And I think the problem is that if you don't charge right from the beginning,
Yes.
it's very hard to start charging for that
Yeah.
because then it goes on the timesheet unexpectedly from the client because they haven't seen it before, and the bill increases or the service plan
Mm.
hours get used up quicker.
Yeah.
So you've got to do this from the start, the very, very start.
Yeah, we would definitely recommend you start as you mean to go on. However, if
Mm.
you've found yourself in the situation where you're like, "Oh, damn. Yeah, yeah, that's me. Hand up. Oh, it's my fault. I get that." It's not too late to
Hmm.
train your client, but
Yeah.
it's about picking up the phone, jumping on a Zoom, communicating how it is
Hmm.
going to be moving forward and why.
Yeah.
It's not too late. Yeah, you're gonna get in the shit for not charging for client work. That
Yeah. I think the other problem too is that if you don't charge for all of your time, you're thinking, you're planning all the time, the phone conversations, it means that your capacity feels like you're fully booked, but you actually aren't
Mhm.
because you're not charging for that time. So you've got this whole chunk of time that you're giving away for free, which makes you feel like you're at capacity. So you can't take on another client, but your earnings is now reduced and restricted.
Yep,
That's not a good place to be in.
yep. If you've got capacity to work, well, if you look at your timer at the end of the day, right, and it's like, oh, how did that happen? 5 hours billable client work, but I've been sitting at my desk for 7.
Yeah. And it's important to realize too that you can't bill all of your time, right? There is time in and around your client work that is genuinely not billable. When you're like taking a call from a lead, when you're having discovery calls, when you're working on your business, your CEO time, your admin time, your invoicing time, your break time. So it's unrealistic to think that if you work 30 hours in the week that you can bill all of those 30 hours. But like, we sure as heck do not want you working even more than that and feeling like, where is my time going because I'm
Yeah,
not billing the
yeah.
time that I'm actually doing with clients. Like, that is, you're going to get yourself in the shit.
Yeah. So let's get really clear on the basics around this, so avoiding this situation. You need to be clear on your capacity, the number of hours you've got
Mhm.
available to work. You need to be clear on how much of that is actually, or be realistic about how much of that is actually going to be billable client work. You need to be not charging, using your time tracker for everything, not just the client work, but also all the other tasks that you're doing throughout the day. So then you've got a pattern there. You can look at the stats, you can look at the numbers. You can go, oh shit, 3 hours on social media today. Oh, I get it now. Maybe I need to tighten things up in that respect. There's
Yeah.
probably something else on that list, but I've forgotten.
No, that's good. That's good. I think you've got the point,
Yes.
right?
Oh, and
Have
know
your
and,
time
and
tracker on.
knowing what's billable and what's not, right? Getting
Mm.
comfortable charging for the chats, charging for replying to client emails.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Moving on. Okay, number 7 on our list is not stopping work quick enough when a client has stopped paying you.
Oh, so guilty of this one.
And this is, yeah, are we going to be honest? Like, this is not even a thing for you where you learned that lesson years ago.
I mean, I learned the lesson, but that doesn't mean to say that we don't still allow this for way too long in my own business. Yeah. I understand the struggle because you want to continue doing the work so that you're still bringing in future money. But there comes a point where the client, well, maybe they don't even have the money to be able to pay you. So they
Mm.
actually aren't able to afford what you're doing. That's is a problem. They may not be happy with work that has been done, so there's a issue that they wanna resolve. Like, there
Mhm.
are a lot of different options as to why a client might not be paying,
Mm.
including they're just actually really useless at paying their bills.
Mhm.
They might have the money, they're just not making the time to actually pay them. All of those are problems, and we've just had a recent one where we had a new client start. I think they paid 1 bill and then they didn't pay 2, and we're doing quite a lot of work with them, and they went into their 3rd month of not paying, and it was about $12,000. We're doing the bookkeeping for them so we could see that they actually had the money. It was just one of the clients was just not actually putting the time into making the payment. Like, we're setting up the
Mm.
payment for them, they're not going in and approving it.
Mm.
So that was like a keep on that client, make sure that you're calling them and getting them to do it over the phone and like let's make that happen. That they eventually did pay. So we kind of knew the reason why they weren't paying because we could see their
Mm.
accounts. So that gave
Mhm.
us the confidence that they would pay.
Yeah.
It's just that they were not making the time.
Yeah. So in that situation, going back to, you have to jump on the phone. Like,
Mhm.
email does not cut it,
Mhm.
and one attempt at a phone call is not gonna cut it. Like, keep on trying. And then
Yeah.
if that's the type of client, like setting up a direct debit, then it's not an issue. Like, if you know the funds isn't an issue, these are some easy fixes with that type of client. What about a client where you don't have the insight as to their cash flow, or you know for a fact that they're having financial issues?
Yeah.
Why are you still doing work for them? Loyalty?
Yeah, I think, like, feeling bad for them, wanting to help them
Yeah.
definitely comes into it. But you're not a charity. You can't do work for free. Like, can you afford to do work for free? No, that's
No.
you can't.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, for those types of clients, you actually do have to stop the work and walk away from them because if they can't afford you, they don't actually have any funds to pay you. Like, you don't wanna be doing more and more work. Use the time to find another client to replace them.
Yeah, that energy is far better suited to
Mhm.
finding more clients, a replacement client.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop sooner. Stop sooner when those red flags start waving in terms of late paying, right?
And pick up the phone.
So either stop sooner if it's a stop sooner situation, or communicate sooner, like deal with the issue sooner.
Mhm.
Don't let it go on and on. Like, we have to train our clients. I think we need to get really comfortable knowing that there are some clients that we're going to have to train more than others.
Yeah, and it's a boundary, right? Holding that boundary of, like, if you don't pay, we can't do the work.
Yeah,
It's a very fast way to get a client to pay by saying that we're gonna have to stop work because they don't want the work to stop.
it works 95% of the time.
Yeah. Okay, our last and final one, making all sorts of assumptions about what might be going on or not going on or your client is thinking or not thinking. And this is all around making those assumptions because of your own mindset, your stories, your beliefs that you have. They're all playing into these assumptions.
This is really common. I think we do it ourselves occasionally. I think we're self-aware enough to go, "Oh, hold on. Is this actually a fact? Do we know for a fact that this is the reason why this client or lead is doing this? Or are we just going worst case scenario? Do we automatically go, they don't want to hire us, they don't like us anymore, they're not happy, whatever that assumption is, they're going to fire us if I come back with this response that I really want to respond." We
Yeah.
automatically go for the worst case. And sometimes that's because we've had a previous experience, either with a manager, an employee, maybe even a past client. Maybe it has happened before. But unless it's actually happened with that client in that exact same situation, it is an assumption.
Yeah. Yeah. assuming that a client's not happy is an assumption that needs to
Mm,
be dealt with. Like, pick up the phone, have a conversation, talk to them, see if it's true or not. Don't just
yeah,
keep wondering,
yeah.
and then because you start, like, communicating less and you start, like, retreating and
Start
not managing that client well.
start getting defensive. Like, if we've
Mhm.
made up especially if we've let it go on for so long that we've literally made up this whole narrative about what this client or lead is thinking and doing and acting, we haven't got a clue what's going on in their life. We've got
Yeah.
no clue.
Yeah.
But it's easy to kind of, once you've got a thought, to then run with it and then look for evidence to kind of back up your theory. Once again,
Mhm.
it's a theory, it's assumption, there's no evidence. I mean, let's talk about some examples that either we've experienced or we see VAs experiencing in this, where they automatically go, the client's not happy, for instance. I think sometimes if a client goes quiet, maybe
Yep.
not to the point where they're ghosting you, but they just kind of all of a sudden comms from their side is maybe it's non-existent for a certain period, maybe it's taking longer. Like we can go, oh, they're not happy. Maybe they're dealing with a sick parent, a sick partner, maybe they're going through a divorce, a separation. Like you just don't know what's going on in their life. Maybe they're having
Yeah.
client issues. Maybe the
Yeah.
shit's hit the fan in their own business. Pick up the phone. If you think there potentially could be an issue, just pick up the phone.
Yeah, and ask them, "Hey, is everything okay?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've been a bit quiet. Like, yeah, what's
Yeah.
going on? Is there anything I can do?
Yeah. Another assumption about a client being unhappy is if they ask to see a timesheet.
Why are they asking? Why are they
Oh.
questioning? They're questioning my
Yeah.
work, Joe.
Yes. Yes. No, there could be all sorts of valid reasons why they wanna see the timesheet. "Oh, like, how much work is being done on this kinda thing? Is there something that I could do that, like, speeds up the process? Am I a bottleneck? Like, what is the how can we do this better? How can we make this more efficient? How can we like, is there room for us to remove something but add something else in?"
Yeah.
All sorts of reasons why. And it'll be very
So
prudent
many
for a
reasons.
business owner to look at a timesheet. So,
Oh, yes. Have it there just in case. If somebody asks, they've got every right to ask, but don't think the worst. Don't automatically go there
mm,
because you're going back to then how you respond is going to come through really clearly. And then that potentially, if you automatically think the worst and get on the defensive or start questioning why they're asking instead of just providing it and then giving the opportunity to then come back, you're then coming across as defensive. And what are you trying to hide? Why don't why why don't they wanna give me their timesheet? Gotta be careful. Gotta be
yeah.
careful.
Another assumption could be around like if a client's asking you to do something, maybe it's not in your wheelhouse or like something extra or something after hours, that if you don't say yes, it's going to be a deal breaker and they're going to want
Mhm.
to leave.
Yeah.
No, we don't want you to have that assumption that you
Mm.
have to say yes, otherwise the client's going to be unhappy.
Yeah, and there can be loads of assumptions with leads as well. Like if a lead says, "I use X, Y, and Z tools," you may not have, or you may not use those. And then you assume that that lead needs you to have,
Mm.
like, 5 gold star ratings in terms of your experience in all of those tools in order to get the
Yeah,
job. Whereas in
yeah.
actual fact, if you're in this industry, you're gonna have a certain level of being naturally tech savvy, or you are going to be curious enough and you're gonna
Mhm.
love to learn and you're quite happy to figure out how to use that thing. Keep in mind, a lot of tools, they've got different names. They all function relatively the same way though, right?
Yeah,
You know one, you can pick up, the other 10 relatively
yeah,
easily once you're in there.
yeah, absolutely. Things are generally in the same place and function the same way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't feel as though you have to tick every leads box in order to convert that lead to a client.
Yeah, that's such a woman thing too, isn't it?
Ah,
Men don't think like that.
they really don't. They really don't.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this earlier on. Don't assume that a lead isn't going to sign your contract if they're questioning, if they've got a question about a clause. Don't
Mhm.
just automatically think the worst. Don't automatically think they're not going to sign it. or it's too much. Contract's too much. It's got to be changed. They could just
Mm.
be asking a question, just some clarification on it. That's okay. Once again, this is just a natural part of being a business.
Yeah. Prudent part of being a business owner, having a look at a contract, making sure you understand it all. If
Yeah.
they've got a question, you can always negotiate on things. Doesn't have to be set in stone. Just make sure that you're not giving away something that is actually really important to this relationship or that's going to get you in the ship. So
Mm,
just be clear on what it is that are your non-negotiables.
yeah. And stop making assumptions. It's not gonna do you any good. It really isn't.
Yeah. Okay. So overall, we really want you to step into that business owner mindset. You are running a business as a virtual assistant. We want you to not bring over all of that kind of conditioning and training that we get as an employee to think like an employee. We need to throw all of that out and we need to start thinking of ourselves as a business owner with
Mm.
our own terms and boundaries and expectations. And all of those are absolutely okay. And you will get a business that you want if you are very clear on what it is that are your boundaries and your expectations and your non-negotiables.
If you are an established virtual assistant, you've got some clients under your belt, but you really struggle with this. You really struggle stepping into a business owner mindset. Then join us. Check out Inside the Scale It Mastermind. We'll pop the link below.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sam and Joe VA Show. If you'd like to find out more, head to the VA Foundry website to check out the mastermind and the amazing resources, courses, and coaching.
You can find us at thevafoundry.com.